Hello. So I have with me Jessica Mesman Griffith. We're actually on our Florida Melancholy Mom vacation. We have an Instagram account where we post sort of funny things about being melancholy mom writers. And I thought I would interview Jess for about 5 minutes before she goes to the airport. I assigned your Babadook essay to my class, and in rereading it, I was thinking about how in essays oftentimes we write from a place of exploration and of, kind of circling around or searching through a question that doesn't necessarily have an answer. And you found a way into doing that with this through cultural texts. Oftentimes I've noticed you'll kind of write in relation to a book or a movie, and you have a particular interest in horror. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and what your interest in that is and how that works with your memoir?
Yeah, so I started as a writer. I started as a movie critic for like a small town newspaper, basically an alternative weekly, and I really wanted to be a film critic. And when I went to my master's program, I had a double master's in the MFA in creative writing and then a master's certification in film studies. So I've always written about film, but the film critics that I loved were like Pauline Kael and when Joan Didion or somebody would write about film, and it would turn into an essay and not really a movie review.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of space for doing that if you're not already a famous established film critic. So then I just I started writing more conventional essays and realizing you can only get those published in literary journals. Newspapers aren't generally interested in like a 4,000 word think piece on a horror movie, but that's why I write a cultural column for a magazine, for U.S. Catholic Magazine, and this started as what was going to be a review of the Babadook, and very quickly became something different. So I think part of the answer to your question is being open to when a piece doesn't want to be what you think it should be, and just following it where it takes you. And also of like pursuing your obsessions, which, you wouldn't think, I specialize in spiritual writing too and religious writing, and you wouldn't think that horror movies would be a natural way into that topic, but for me that's what I love, and I've been trying to figure out why. And I've written about horror and given talks about horror. I think part of it is the same thing that essays do, which is like you're stripping away masks. You're constantly trying to get behind the pose to what is really real, and horror does that. You can't have it's always trying to get to the essential truth at the bottom of some mystery, or nobody is who they're claiming themselves to be, or so there's that. And I think the essay is like that too. I'm always trying to push myself when I write, and sometimes that can be really difficult to say, is this really true, or am I falling into a pose? Am I posturing for the reader? Am I pretending to be my best self here when really that's not what I think?
Oh, wow.
Always having to, and in revision I often do that too. And it's so important in spiritual writing because I think it's so prone to platitude and pablum that if you don't hold your feet to the fire every second of spiritual writing, you're going to end up saying something that isn't true. So in revision, I always ask myself those questions over and over again, like, do I really mean that statement, or is it something I heard someone else say and it's what I think I should say at this moment? So the Babadook essay is interesting to me still in that I'm doing both of those things. I'm thinking about horror and how horror tells truth in a certain way. But I'm also trying to get to the bottom of myself, and I don't come to any easy conclusion, except that in an odd way, horror comforts me because it reflects back to me truth in a way that other genres don't.
I love that. I've been thinking a lot about getting at the what's at stake when I would teach freshman comp, and you'd have people write essays, and sometimes an 18-year-old doesn't really know how to engage with like whatever cultural issue we're talking about, and so you try to get them to think about, well, to whom might this matter? Like, what's the underlying whose life is on the line here,
Right.
what's at stake here. And so how do you do that in a personal essay, and how do you hold your own feet to the fire in that way of like, what's really the kernel here, what's at stake in my life in thinking through this issue. I love horror as a way into that, and the stripping away of masks. It's kind of like what Flannery O'Connor said about why she wrote in sort of this grotesque mode, because you want to, fiction is this opportunity to show people at their extremes, and to kind of think about what it means to be human when you're pushed to an extreme like that.
Pushed to the absolute limit.
Yeah, I feel like that's what your essay does, and that's, you get at that through horror, because that's what horror also does. That's great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.